Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Laura and I like to craft stuff. I got this pack of fabrics last Christmas and I've been holding on to it because I wasn't sure what color I wanted to add to it. Oh, I'm flipping through it here. What color I wanted to add to it and have like as a secondary color. When I was buying the fabrics for my dinosaur quilt, Joann's was having a sale, like a really good sale, like $3 a yard sale. Maybe the fabric isn't the greatest, but it's, you know, able to get me enough that I chose an orange to go with this pack. It's primarily blues, which is why I chose orange. It's pretty rudimentary color wheel stuff. They are complementary colors. Orange and blue are complementary colors, and so the idea is they naturally go together because they are across the color wheel, right? Well, this fabric pack does have some fabrics where there's an orange background, which was also kind of the idea. Here we go. Even with this orange background, I think it'll go well with this orange fabric, which just has little X's on it. It's really cute. So that's the plan. So now I get to make the quilt. It's been how many months? I'm excited. Of course, we're gonna do something simple with half square triangles. I'm not ready for all of my talk of challenging myself with the dinosaur quilt. I'm not ready necessarily to move on in this lovely book, 1000 Great Quilt Blocks by Maggie McCormick Gordon. I think it's out of print, unfortunately, but I enjoy using it. I have seen it used online. I wanted to do this Mosaic number 2. Now, I was loaned a copy of this book, Encyclopedia of Pieced Quilt Patterns by Barbara Brackman. And in this book, that design, oh my goodness, is called Mosaic number 12 and Mosaic number 9. I'm trying to open. I used a fabric to hold the page. Here we go. So in here, it's this one, and they say it's Mosaic number 12 or Mosaic number 9, and also, I guess, for this, Mosaic number 2. So it's just a mosaic. That's what I want to do. I'm hoping, of course, it's going to be pretty standard. I want the orange to be the white squares, and then the fabric pack to be the darker squares, or the darker triangles, rather. I'm thinking I might go to 4 inches maximum for the size of these because I want to be able to use and match up these triangles, and I know that these squares are 10-ish inches, probably more like 9.5 usable, and so, I do 4-inch. I might have to do 3-inch maximum squares, and then I'm cutting 4-inch squares out of this. So, yeah, that's where we're going with that. I try to post every other Tuesday, so if you want to join me on future projects, like and subscribe. Other than that, let's get to work. Thank you again to Mardi for the fabrics and the letting me borrow the Encyclopedia of Quilt Blocks, because honestly I should probably start looking through that for quilt block ideas as well, because there's a lot of things to try, and I've been enjoying just like trying and seeing what's gonna happen when I what it's gonna look like in the end when I combine fabrics and you know do all that stuff. So I am starting with 4-inch blocks I am cutting them into 4-inch strips one way, and then I cut them down to be the 4-inch blocks. And then once everything's all sewn up, I do trim them down to 3 inches. So the final blocks of the half square triangles are 3 inches. I feel like I measured the block, but I don't recall what the measurement was. I'm a little bad about that. Sorry. It's really funny, especially looking back at the footage of this. I expected, like, I chose the fabric pack out of some options, but I expected that this is the one that I would like the least. And I actually think it maybe came out to be one of my favorites. Not only the colors that the orange fabric that I chose to go with it, but just working with the fabrics in general. I had a lot of fun with this fabric pack. Which it was a surprise because I normally don't like blues that much. Although I guess this isn't all blue. I really liked that fabric. That fabric was really fun. I don't know that I had a specific favorite, though. I didn't worry too much about... Yeah, I never do worry too much about the direction of the fabrics, or... at least with these, I didn't concern myself too much with what was going to appear in the final half square. With some of them I do, if it's like characters or cute little animals or something, when I'm cutting that final square, or if I'm like sewing it half across, will sometimes choose a different direction depending on what's going to appear in those half squares. That's like the maximum effort level I give to the placements of the fabrics. And then, of course, as per usual, I like to sew them across diagonally instead of cutting out half square, or cutting out the triangles and then sewing the triangles. I do 2 lines and then I cut it down the middle. It's super easy, and I feel like I've gotten a lot better about gauging how much space. There was a comment left that I should give myself a little bit more space so that things seams don't start to fall apart. If the seam allowance is too small, eventually with wear and tear, the seams will pop. And that is very valid. So, and it's, it was a good point. So I have tried and am trying to give myself a little bit more of a wiggle room in between those 2 lines. Especially since I am doing a full inch larger than what I trimmed them down to be. And it didn't cause too much problems. Like, I didn't have any in the final trim down that were too small as a result of adding more space in between my 2 lines, which was what I was a little bit worried about. So, yeah. And of course, now I'm cutting them in half, and then we'll be ironing them and then trimming them down. This process, honestly, has gotten easier every time I do it. This particular quilt was so fast to make. I'm actually ahead of schedule, and I had a great time. I knew it was going to be a little bit smaller than the quilts I've made in the past, but I've made quite a few, I think, at this point that need to be quilted, that I'm going to be using on my own bed, that I am comfortable making couch quilts. I still need to get to my doll quilts. I have some ideas for doll quilts, but we're not there yet. Here we are ironing them open. And as usual, I love ironing my quilt blocks. I've definitely gotten to the point where I iron almost every step of the way. almost every step of the way. I do try to do the fingernail pressing, and at some point I should probably film myself doing that, but I do it on my leg in my lap as I'm sewing, and that's just weird to film. So maybe I'll just do like an example, and then I just show that example every time I need to talk about it. That could work. Yeah, here I am trimming down to 3 inches. At one point, oh, and I was so mad, I trimmed down accidentally too small. I think I trimmed down to 2 inches, and I'm not sure why I did. I don't think I filmed it, but I had to basically set aside all of those colors and then as well as 3 others, because that would equate to 1 block. But it didn't, I don't think it affected the layout too much. Like there was enough that I had enough for 1 extra block, and that was the one that was messed up. So it worked out in the end. Here I am sewing in, and this is probably why it went a lot faster, is I did a long section of chain piecing, because basically the entire thing was making arrows pointing in one direction, and so I just paired up their half square triangles with a counterpart that made an arrow, and yeah. I did that for all the way down the line, and then I put the 2 matching fabric arrows together in one direction, like a little, I did it similarly to a 4 square patch, where you sew in one direction and then you sew in the other. So I made sure that they were all in a row so I could easily just do that. I hope that all made sense. I'm sure that you know what I'm talking about. If you watched other videos, I do have little clips of where I'm showing you that I'm folding it over and sewing in that direction. But yeah, I think that was part of why this was so fast and easy to make, is because the entire thing were just arrows. And all I had to do was make sure that I had 4 half square triangles of the same 2 colors, and then that makes the 2 arrows. Super easy. I have gotten better, I think, at my seam allowances, and I do think it helps the foot that I have. I'm not crazy about, there's this little bar that drops down, and in some aspects it's helpful, and in other aspects it's not. So when I was doing my half square triangles, I actually did not use this foot. I used my old foot, because the bar was kind of getting in the way. Like, it only works if you are lining up your fabric to the end of it. So I might get another one where it doesn't have that bar drop down, that it is simply a 1/4 or whatever that doesn't have the bar. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if do you have a foot that has a bar that drops down, and does that cause you guys problems? Maybe I'm using it wrong. Anyway, here I am ironing them all open, which is always satisfying. Always, always satisfying. And I think that the color of orange that I chose was the perfect match for this fabric pack. I do really like the colors together. But I always feel like I like my colors together, so. And then here I am laying them all out. So this, again, I'm treating these like they're now the blocks, and I'll be sewing it together like a 4 patch again. I tried to vary the colors that I had in each block for the triangles. So I grouped them out in like their kind of rough estimate color, and then laid them out according to that. So I had like my dark blue pile, and I had my light blue pile, and I had my kind of greenish pile. And then chose from like one from each of those piles to make the final block. And I think it worked out really well. I didn't worry too much about the final alignment. Because after a while it gets to be like, well, how close can the colors be? And sometimes you're just going to have two fabrics that are close together. But I think ultimately I gave myself enough variety that it looks like it's evenly spread out. Once I finished ironing all of these, I then laid these out in a 4 square and sewed those 4 squares together. So the final layout is 4 squares or 4 blocks by 4 blocks, right? So I had 16 blocks, I think. Oh, goodness. I am popping on because I have been sewing blocks together and I wasn't paying attention because I was watching a show, and I accidentally sewed 2 sides of this block together. Whoopsies! I thought it was funny, and I thought I'd show you guys. So, yeah, not what I had intended. So I gotta go get my seam ripper, because I need these 2 blocks, so yay! So yes, it is 4 across and 4 down for a total of 16 blocks. And I really, really do like this quilt quite a lot. I am surprised. I always am. I feel like, I don't know what usually is going on in my head, but it's always a surprise to see what it looks like in the end, because it rarely is exactly as it is pictured in my head. I think the only time it ever was the Annie's Choice quilt. That one is kind of what I pictured in my head. More aligned. Anyway, but yeah, complementary colors are a great way to play with color, and you know, maybe I should do it more often than I do, and not resist it so much. But yeah, I'm thinking in the end I still have a lot of that orange fabric left, so I'm probably just going to do that orange as a plain border around, but not use it as the back. I don't know what I'll use as the back. It depends. I usually get sheets for the backs of my quilts from Goodwill because it's cheaper that way, and it saves things from going into the landfill. So we'll see what I can find. Thank you so much for watching and joining me on this quilt and joining me on my channel. I've gotten some new folks joining my channel, and it's been awesome. I've been having a lot of blast seeing your guys' comments and stuff. So thank you again. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.